So I would like to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories. Not any one in particular. I've never really personally been that into any one crazy theory about something. But I've been very interested in conspiracy theories in general for a while. And something that I've noticed recently is that it seems to me we are rapidly approaching a time in which everyone is going to believe in at least one conspiracy theory, especially the most rational and hard-nosed skeptical people, especially those people who look down on conspiracy theories. I think that even those people, because of larger variables in the social system, even those people are going to become conspiracy theorists before you know it. And I think it's already happening. I think the example of perceived Russian influence on American politics is already an example of how highly educated people who are generally very dismissive of quote-unquote conspiracy theorists are themselves becoming some of the most easily duped and harmful proponents of what are essentially conspiracy theories. So I'd like to explain why I think this is happening and why I think we should expect to see more of it. The problem is that when social trust in mainstream institutions sinks beneath a certain threshold, it causes serious problems, even for the most intelligent and rational people. Because the truth is that most people, all people really, no matter how smart or intelligent you are, we all rely on certain forms of social trust to ground our beliefs. There's basically no way around that. So when you see all this data about how people have less and less trust in academia or science or NASA or whatever the case might be, when you see these variables decreasing over time, it's not just one data point among others. It's a major, absolutely crucial and catastrophic phenomenon that we're witnessing. In the case of conspiracy theories, the way this manifests is that, well, even if I'm the most skeptical person alive, if I watch a 2-hour documentary presenting all of the quote-unquote evidence in favor of, let's say, flat earth theory or Pizzagate or whatever the case might be, well, there's going to be a bunch of information in that documentary that I've never heard of before. I'm going to be introduced to new people who believe a certain theory. All of this information, if I'm an honest, rational person, I have to use that information to at least marginally increase my estimated probability of that theory being true. Let's say my current belief in the probability of Pizzagate being true is 0. If I watch a 2-hour long documentary, and by the way, I just did, which is why I'm thinking about this. If I watch a 2-hour long documentary on why Pizzagate is true, I'm going to be subjected to new information. And even if I'm extremely skeptical of it, I have to at least say, all right, I'm increasing my belief in this theory from 0 to, let's say, 0.0001. Now, you could say that you're not even going to do that, that by definition, in advance, you're going to reject outright and absolutely any conspiracy theory. Well, the problem with that, you can do that. The problem with that is you're explicitly aligning yourself with basically the traditionalist kind of authoritarian mode of analysis, really. You're actually counterposing yourself to science. In an interesting way, conspiracy theorists, even if they're bad scientists, even if they're very wrong about any particular theory, they actually are the embodiments of the radical spirit of what science really is. Because science is all about, from its beginning, the slogan of science was always, trust no authority. And so, if you're going to say that you're opposed to all conspiracy theories in advance, no matter what, to prevent yourself from kind of going down the slippery slope of slowly believing more and more conspiracy theories, you're essentially setting yourself up as a kind of church authority opposed to updating based on new information. That you're the opposite of science there. So if you want to be rational and educated and scientific, and as a modern individual wants to be generally, that's what we value and that's generally how we think nowadays, you have to at least open yourself up honestly to updating your beliefs based on new information. That's just Bayesian rationality. Now, the problem with this is that if you increase your beliefs even a little bit in favor of Pizzagate after you watch it, well, the problem with that is, guess what? The cost of creating new theories and proliferating information supporting theories is decreasing over time. And we could imagine, in fact, we have to imagine, that there will come a point where it is so cheap and easy to generate materials of all kind, the most true and lifelike, the most true seeming and lifelike materials in defense of a conspiracy theory. It will be easier and easier to do that. And so we have to imagine a time in which there's going to be 10 extremely convincing documentaries about flat earth theory filled with information and corroborating evidence, or what seems like corroborating evidence. This is the problem. You're not going to be able to tell deep fakes, right? You might imagine scholarly journal articles coming out on a daily basis in support of flat earth theory if those people get their hands on sufficiently powerful text generator models, for instance. Or videos of esteemed, respectable scientists endorsing different types of conspiracy theories. You have to imagine in the near future, all of these types of information products are going to become more and more widely spread because they're going to become cheaper and easier and more lifelike and convincing. And so the only way to not get duped by one pathway of such different, motivated, misleading theory camps, the only possible way to avoid going whole hog down some pathway like that is to instantiate for yourself a kind of absolute a priori rule that says you're only going to trust NASA, or you're only going to trust, academia, or whatever the case might be. And if you do that, you are very strictly and technically aligning yourself as an anti-scientific individual, an anti-rational individual. And the real kicker here is that even that is not going to get you out of the bind of essentially believing in a conspiracy theory. Because guess what? Even if you want to set yourself up that way to prevent your participation in this catastrophic decline of social trust and kind of intellectual theoretical chaos, even if you want to do that, well, guess what? You're still a conspiracy theorist, at least towards all of those people who are generating new theories. So, you can say you don't believe in flat earth theory or Pizzagate or any such conspiracy theory, no matter what. But as those become more and more popular, someone might ask you, well, how do you explain all those people? Why are there large camps of people who believe in these ideas? And you're going to have to say something that boils down in one way or another to, well, they are a dubious cabal of motivated individuals or groups with nefarious interests trying to brainwash the masses. I mean, that is going to be your perspective on some enemy force somewhere at some point, whether you like it or not, really. And so that's what I mean when I say that the way things look to me, we are all conspiracy theorists now. I think this is exactly what we're seeing with the widespread perception that Russia or Putin is pulling the strings behind American electoral politics. In a weird way, the people who fell really hard into this belief over the past year or so are the people who generally think that flat earth theorists or Pizzagate theorists are really stupid and harmful, nefarious forces in society. The people who look down on conspiracy theorists are the ones who are, in an interesting way, falling the hardest for the actually most dominant and perverse mental takeover of, common people. What we're seeing is highly educated, intelligent Democrats, for instance, who, on the one hand, will fall hook, line, and sinker for what is essentially a conspiracy theory. Also saying that, on the other hand, these flat earthers and these Pizzagate people, they'll point to those people and say that they're extremely harmful, stupid, and perverse social actors. To be honest, as I said, I'm not a particular proponent of any particular conspiracy theory, but I think that the average flat earther is not really a bad person and is not actually doing much harm. I think that they're actually trying to think scientifically. They honestly don't trust mainstream institutions for sometimes good reasons that are often the fault of those large institutions. These people genuinely don't trust what they hear from almost all currently existing authorities, and therefore they are actually doing what is rational from their from their prior beliefs. They are questioning everything. That's what science tells you to do. They are trying to investigate things. They're trying to generate novel, creative, bold hypotheses. Again, this is precisely the spirit of science. And yeah, they might be wrong. They might, have all kinds of cognitive biases and kind of group reinforcement dynamics that send them deep down rabbit holes that aren't necessarily connected to reality. So I'm not saying that these theories are necessarily true, although sometimes they might have grains of truth that are actually sometimes bigger grains of truth than the conventional wisdom on certain topics. All I'm saying is that they're really doing what the kind of modern scientific spirit has slowly been building up for us to do. The thing is that we've always more or less had a kind of centralized trust in mainstream institutions, which have, that's basically kept a tight constraint on the wild, chaotic shooting of individuals' minds into these different crazy rabbit holes. That's always been constrained by a generalized social consensus that what academics say is generally the most accurate model, or what NASA says about something is generally a kind of bipartisan, apolitical pronouncement. Now that no one really trusts these basic intuitions that have for so long kind of structured our kind of social perceptions, well, the spirit of science ain't so desirable to a lot of people. The spirit of science is not as wonderful and positive and progressive a force as people thought it would be, or it's not as progressive a force as people thought it always was when there were these external constraints pressing down. And so that's why people like Steven Pinker, who are all about Enlightenment values and the spirit of science and progress, it doesn't really work if trust in social institutions is breaking down to the degree that it's currently breaking down. Flat Earth theorists are trying to do science, basically. They are embodying the spirit of science with the priors that they have in their mind based on their subjective individual social experience. And so, yeah, you don't get the progress and the benefits and all these kind of beautiful mythological aspects of scientific progress unless you have the kind of somewhat forced constraint of everyone trusting in the same centralized institutions. We're learning in practice now that is perhaps a privilege that was only ever going to be quite short-lived.